Hello and welcome to Future Talks podcast. I'm joined here today by Amos Simbo OBE. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Would you care to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. Amos Simbo, founder of BPIC Network, and also run a consultancy called Winway in Construction.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start. How did you get into the industry?
It was just his first job that I got, so I'll probably say it got in by sort of coincidence, a mistake,
Yeah.
whichever way. So when I finished studying, you send your CVs to loads of portals, wherever. And at the time, there's a company called Imtech that came through and offered me an interview. And I just went and I got this first job. And that was my introduction to construction. I didn't really know anything about the industry.
So no family linkage, no historical relationship with the industry. It was
Yeah,
starting fresh.
not at all. Yeah, and I think that's a story for quite a few people as well in the industry. You don't really appreciate what's going on in construction or the depth of it. So yeah, I'll probably say that was the first time as well for me seeing cranes. Even though I was walking past them every day, you just never sort of pay attention to them.
It's an interesting industry in so much that a lot of people come in through cousins, families, relationships here, and there's fewer people that come in fresh from the outside.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a barrier to people joining the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with people obviously coming through their family relations. I think it's an industry that once you get to know it, it's really good. It's an industry that's based on trusts and it's predominantly people relations. So that's sort of like a natural way people interact and do things. But it's an unintended consequence, I guess, as a barrier because people wouldn't necessarily know the depth of the industry.
If you're thinking about the industry today and state of the nation and where we are today, what's your view on the industry as we are here today?
It's probably getting there. It's an industry that's driven. Its infrastructure is in construction, so it's driven a lot by the government. It's driven a lot by the public sector. I think the public sector itself, where if you look at the big construction companies out there or the industry as a whole, is one of the biggest clients. Ever. So I think it's probably getting better. If you're looking at the state of the nation, I think it still needs to get more of a to be more on the stage. I think at the moment we're not really central to what's happening out there because everything that needs to happen needs the infrastructure to happen. Talking about transport, 5G, etc., and all the economies that are developing. The one area they look at is their infrastructure. Is it there and can you deliver housing, etc. But I'm still not yet to see the key players on the industry being on the stage, making those decisions. Speaking from an industry perspective. So I think when you talk about the state of the nation, I think it still needs a bigger voice when it comes to the public.
What do you think are the good news stories? What are the good news stories that we should be getting out to a wider?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads. I mean, if any city you go, if you get out on any road, that's been enabled by the built environment. The actual city that we're in, you only ever hear about delays to I don't know the tube or trains when there are delays, but all the time it's actually working. It's very functional. People fly. We're talking about Heathrow earlier on. There's so much going on there when it comes to construction, to the maintenance of it. So I feel like a big part is just the day to day really highlighting how that's being enabled by construction in the built environment. And then secondly, talking about the employment, the industry actually employs quite a lot of people and is very pivotal even at entry level, people that just want to start because most of it is based on, communication skills, working as a team. So you can start there. So there's loads of good news stories of what happens here, what's happening abroad, the skills that we export, is a big part. If you look, for example, lately in the Middle East, there's a lot of British firms that building there, and that's because of the technical quality standards of what we do. So there's so many good news stories that are out there that could be well publicized.
I think even from my own career, a career in UK construction enables you to work in the Middle East, in North America, in Australasia. It allows you to do so much more as well,
Yeah.
which is exciting and
Yes.
something the younger people should be aware of.
Yeah, and I think when remote working started in the pandemic, I was already doing it because I was going site to site,
Mm.
and sometimes you do your work remotely, and before you go to site, so it wasn't such a thing. I was like, we're already doing this. So there's so many things that the industry itself, does and has been doing that really hasn't had a light shine on it.
So there's an onus on us within the industry to go out there, tell the public what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what that means.
Yeah, in a more interesting way. Because hey, yeah, I'd say yeah, because I think the industry itself is too technical. And people talk about. I mean, it's not nothing wrong with it, but when people are talking about some of the planning technicalities or the bill, I don't think that actually means anything to anyone. I think a lot of it needs to be decrypted.
Yeah.
Number one, but secondly, what also people don't realize is by making the industry be more inclusive, it's not just for people to come in, it's also for the industry to people to be more aware of the industry because we live in a diverse country, diverse communities. So for you to be known, that's also an avenue for an industry to be known for different things. And you're gonna get more interesting characters. I feel like the characters we have in the sector are kind of be, one dimensional and it's all about the job that they're doing, but the message needs to be translated in a way that a normal person in public can actually understand and appreciate.
You mentioned inclusion and diversity earlier. It's a growing something that people are becoming more and more aware of, I think,
Yep.
within our industry. And as business leaders, I think it's really important that you drive about it. But business leader or not, how can you make a positive impact?
Yeah, I think the first thing to approach it is just approach it with an, I guess with an open mind. Thing is with areas around inclusion, it can be a bit sensitive, predominantly because like any normal person who is not affected by it, who doesn't want to risk saying the wrong thing, or putting themselves in some sort of limelight where they're like, why am I doing this? So there's people are always sort of tethering around, mostly not because they don't want to fix things, but mostly because they don't want to say the wrong things or risk, saying the wrong thing. And I think as a starting point, it should be a space where there's openness and to talk. No one knows everything about everything. People can only learn from each other. It's a big part of, I guess, today's workforce. There's so many options. The people are so much connected, and there's emphasis on people as well, people's well-being, and we were much more educated on different things. And I think for leaders, it's becoming a thing that needs to be addressed and spoken about. But I think a big part of it is a to and fro thing, isn't it? It should be open dialogue, really, of people to say the intent is to see if we can solve this. And I think once that's cracked, there's got to be a leadership of. It's a really important topic to tackle. It's not going anywhere. So the best thing is to kind of deal with it head on and see if you can actually solve it.
And who do you sit there? Are there organizations that you think are doing it well? Are there organizations you think you're doing some of that well? What are you seeing that makes you have real positive hope?
I think everyone has been on a journey to try and solve it. So when we started, our main aim as BPIC was to say, look, we have to be inclusive, but in a way that also works with the functionalities of a business, right? So in none other way, you need to make it more of an assurance mechanism that works in line with other self assurance mechanisms that you have. So that's how we approached it. So we were on that journey to learn. Okay, for businesses, what can we do to really improve things when it comes to inclusion, et cetera, et cetera. But they were also learning from our side, so you could visibly see that. So for us, for the last 3-4 years, it's been collaborative approach to things to say this is what matters, this is what we should be doing, and the underlying thing has been the intent. So you can see really people really want to solve things here. They want to make a difference. How can we build it together? So I would say that there's been a big champion, but there's been businesses that have really looked at, put good intent into it. How can we really solve it, and there for the long game.
You mentioned BPIC,
Yeah.
and obviously that's an organization you founded a few years ago. What was the driver that made you think I need to do this? What was the thing that suddenly spawned the idea?
Yeah, so for me, looking back to where I am now, I I just got into the industry by mistake, right? So every day was more like discovery. It's like, new things every day. So I actually worked for on an ITV project in Grayson Road. That's how I got to know this area. So I think I was in this area back in 2014, 15 for about 3 years, between that and another studio, which is down the road. Um, and I was a technical services manager at the time. Um, and it was just, I was learning the people, I was learning the supply chains, but there's a client, there's another client. Sure. So I was learning like everything all in one go. And I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it. You know, when I first started with the Olympics in 2011, leading up to 2012. So I was at side level then, and then did all the stuff. Then I started my own business, which is also consulting and learning new things. So for me, by the time we got to say 2020, I met people that were saying they were struggling to get in the industry. And from what I'd seen, I was surprised by that because for two or three things. Because I was like, number one, there's a shortage of good people in general. When I had people, especially from black backgrounds, ethnic minorities, saying they're struggling, I was like, well, you can wait for your company, or we can just start a network and help each other. That's really what started it as a network, and then it kind of grew from there.
So you mentioned you've seen that intent change over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
How do you see or hope that that will change over the next 5-6 years? When we look at 2030, 2031, how do you see BPIC changing over that time period?
Yeah, I think I would like to see us. We are there at the moment, but be normal part of construction process. So at the moment, members that join BPIC network, they become members. We do our assessments, etc. It's more of a certification, and we're part and parcel of compliance essentially and delivery, which then touches on all parts of the business. So you're looking at your, I guess, HR compliance, looking at your talent pipelines, you're looking at sites. At sites, you tend to get the raw end of things. So at the moment, with the partners that we have, including Nipstock, we are doing that. Over the next 5 years, is having it much more normalized in terms of process. Obviously, that means we're going to grow, you're big. But, for example, if you're on a framework for, I don't know, Heathrow Airport, that's a requirement that you got to have. And you just make sure that that's something that you can scale up in a very organized way, because the standards are there, the benchmark is there, good practice and good standards for what you have as a business, what you have on your sites, the areas that you're looking at, pointing companies in the right direction. So I'll give an example. We have, Diwali. Yeah, I knew nothing about it. Yeah, I just knew Diwali. Everyone knows what it is. So it's like you celebrate holiday, eat, and all that. But we have one of our colleagues is Indian, and I was actually asking, I was like, why is this? Like, can you explain? So we did a template of, so business can actually get to know that the different cultures that you have, what does it actually mean? Why do people want to celebrate it? And all that, those are part of sort of the resources and guides that we give. So over the next 5 years, I would like to see normalize as part of our industry process and what we do.
It's always disappointing to hear that people struggle to get into the industry,
Yeah.
particularly when you mention we've got that skill shortage,
Yeah.
we've got a lack of young people potentially coming in,
Yeah.
but you've got no shortage of people wanting to come in. So actually, there's a real driver from us in industry to create those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, my question to you is, how do you see the best way to engage with the widest group of people? How do you encourage the right people into the industry, the broadest group of people? How do we make that happen?
Yeah, so I'll probably say 4 things, just thinking on the spot. So the first one, which has nothing to do with sort of ethnic minorities, just as a general thing, there's a gap between the education system and the industry. There's just a big gap for whatever reason. So you got to speak to uni, let's say Loughborough, and they're all looking for jobs. And then you go speak to the industry and they're looking for people. And you're like, I don't know what's going on here. So there's mechanism of how the industry itself actually acquires its talent and people that are coming into the industry. So when it comes to the awareness, when I was at Loughborough Uni, I didn't know I could even get into construction. And the government spends so much money on training, but those training people still never come to the industry. It's like, and they've tried to iterate it so many times. So they used to have these book, I don't know, mayor's academies, and then now they've got the boot camps, and now they've got something else. But it's like not working. It's like, what's really going on there? And what I've seen from there is the people that are designing all those things, some of them might not be industry people. So knowing how it works. So I'll say that's number one. Number two, I'll say when it comes to inclusion, the biggest thing you have is retention. So people leave. So people come to the industry, but they're actually leaking far greater than they're coming in, which is your problem there. and the whole issue about having inclusive best practice to keep people, because I don't. Well, the industry will be issue people coming in, but the biggest issue there is people actually leaving. So that's another thing in terms of them staying. And then the third thing, like I said, as an industry as a whole, we just got to be much more interesting in terms of how we publicize ourselves, the news that we put out there. Um, like I learned about the industry, every time, and I try to every time I get an opportunity. So when I came here, I think last year, I just saw loads of bricks, right? And I was asking, what else do you do? And then it just kept going and going, like there's loads of stuff. And I didn't know that. But there's so many things that happen that people wouldn't necessarily know. And things like I was saying about inclusion. Inclusion is about the people, but actually the wider world, when they see that it's a very diverse industry, it actually attracts more people to come in because they'll know that it's a very welcoming industry. So if that person is there, that person is there, it's actually very attractive. So I'll probably say, I think I say four things, but those are the three things that the industry could do. And the last one, like we don't have a construction minister, for example. We do, but it's not like a sole role. It's like 1 or 10 jobs. So the construction minister, I think, sits as the business minister, and it's 1 or 10 roles, and that alone is baffling. To be like, it's a big portfolio for one person to be able to take. So that's what I mean by structural things.
If we think about the construction industry, it's 8 to 10% of GDP in this country, and we change construction minister every 6 months as well, and it sort of shows a lack of commitment.
Absolutely.
Do you ever feel like you're giving up hope, or do you you talk about those big things you've got to change?
Yeah.
What keeps you going? What keeps you, how do you keep battling on?
Um, I'm very hopeful for the industry. And I think for me, I find it exciting. So it's something that I get excited about. It's like something that you're really passionate about. You can't really run away from it, right? So if you're really passionate about football, you can try and be pretend like you don't. Or if you see something, you start jumping about. Johnny says, "Oh, I'd rather happen." So
Clearly not a Plymouth Argyle fan. That's a lot more challenging.
is it? Yeah. So it's like, how do you even, is that your team?
Yeah.
Like someone will be like, how do you even support that club? So because, but then you really like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because for me, I used to find it baffling to be like, how's this guy supporting that small team? What keeps driving them? But that's your team. That's who you support. It's not a lack of United's or Liverpool's. It's just who you support. So it's kind of similar to me to be like, no, it's not a case of you wanting to be flashy. It's something that personally I just like. I like how the industry is. I like the industry gossip. I like what goes on in the industry. And fundamentally, if you're part of it, I want to see myself as also part of the change. And I feel like it's changing, and everyone's got a part to play. So from there wasn't a BPIC 5 years ago, yeah, which was to where we are. All the companies that I remember, I didn't know you, I didn't know anybody. So we put our mind to it, and it's something that you can seriously change with the intent of actually leaving behind a legacy of change.
Amos, you recently received an OBE for the work you've done with BPIC, and great recognition for you and that message you were just talking about. What did that mean to you, and how do you think it feeds into the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so for me, it's a big surprise. Something that I think last week people were doing the 2016 challenge for year 10 years ago. And yeah, I was like, I never thought I'd be doing this. I never thought I'd be doing BPIC. I never thought I'd be doing, Winway, whatever I'm doing. But what we had was the passion as a drive. So for me, it's very good recognition. And I got to learn more about what it means. Went to Windsor Castle, really nice day out with the family, and everything else. So yeah, I was in the stuff that I see on TV. And I was a main actor, so it's really brilliant. So it's really good. It's really reinforces what we're doing, and kind of keeps that belief and kind of puts the industry on the map.
Looking outside of the industry and, not thinking about construction, what do you see elsewhere that excites you?
Outside the industry, that's a good question. Because it sounds like I'm boring. I'm always like got my head in this industry. I'll probably say what I'm keenly interested in predominantly is change. That's sort of what really drives me. So I think we'll talk about the countryside. My family are farmers back in Zimbabwe. So for me, that's an area I want to get into one day, farming. I've been watching Yellowstone lately, so probably that's right. It's Netflix. So for me, farming, great farming, I was born in Zimbabwe in a very little village, which has no football club, a bit like Plymouth. So outside of things, those are some of the passions that I have, that I do.
I think agriculture is one of those areas that our industry can learn something from. If you think about where agriculture was in 1930s and people were threshing by hand, the increase in productivity in agriculture has been over 100 times more productive.
Absolutely.
We've got so much we can learn
Yeah,
from them.
yeah, and the automations, the machinery, the way they predict
Oh,
now, what's coming, the data, where they plant,
Mm.
and is a key industry to us. And there's got so many similarities because you used to have, like we have on sites, you got like thousands of trains, and they used to have people doing all manual labor, and that's all been reduced. But they've managed to find other things to do, for people within the sector.
We need to find the combine harvester for construction. I think that's our big challenge. Thinking about leadership, what does leadership look like for you? What's good leadership? Are there times where you've had people in your life who you thought they're really good leaders? They have characteristics, traits that you think actually they're things I can learn from.
So for me, I think it's about clarity and decisiveness. Sometimes it goes left and right depending on how you see the world, but I think the clarity and decisiveness for leadership is really important, and I think a lot of people are calling for that now. To be like, for me, leadership is belief, clarity, and boldness to actually come out and say, "This is what I believe." You might have people that disagree with you, and it comes even to the BP to be like, "Look, if you want your business to be inclusive, come out and say it. You want to do it. It's not something that you should hide behind. If you make mistakes, you make mistakes, but you're gonna get on with it." So for me, that's really what leadership is, because people are looking for hope. People want to be led. I mean, it's in the name, isn't it? People want to be led, but to lead people, you gotta have clarity and that level of honesty to come out and say. And if you look at history, there's been loads of them.
Final note. What excites you? What do you see out in the industry that really excites you today? What we know in 2026? What's your great hope?
My great hope is, I'm hearing a lot of words, construction being mentioned everywhere, housing, this and the other. I hope that continues to come to light, and people be more aware, of what we're doing, of what the industry actually is and what it delivers. So for me, I'll probably say, that really excites me. Um, I'm also, really excited to see, I think, more people gain more awareness of the industry, to say these are opportunities that we have. We're doing, our bit here by doing this podcast and putting out on platforms so people can see. I like to see, this podcast get 1 million views, not just for me, uh, but for the wider thing, um, so that people can get to know, what the industry does, what Ipstock does. There's just so much depth into what you guys do here, and for people to get to know that. So for me, I'll probably say for this year, that's one thing I'm looking forward, to. There's a lot of infrastructure being commissioned at the moment, which is really great, because I think the infrastructure in this country is old, because the great engineers of the country were the first pioneers, isn't it? So they're the first to build. But now, unfortunately, the infrastructure is really old. Like, if I was on the tube and it's just screaming, hey, you got to even be on the tube. Just all that is very exciting, because it's like, finally, got infrastructure on the table. Can we solve it? But we got new voices now, and that are fresh, that can get, including yourself, Andrew. So it's like great, and they can get on. So for me, that's what excites me.
Amos Simbo OBE. Thank you very much for your time.